While I was in a hospital ICU after a miscarriage, my husband and his mother sold all my handmade crafts at a garage sale. She won't want reminders, they claimed. 2 years later, I was featured on a national art show with one piece that looked awfully familiar. I'm 41 female, I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I used to think I had a quiet, stable life. I'm a ceramic artist by trade, not the famous kind, not even the profitable kind really. I sold my work online and at local markets. You know the type: handmade wind chimes, sculpted pottery with weird little textures and patterns, sun catchers made from salvaged glass. I loved it. My art was personal, sentimental, often tied to memories of places I'd been or people I'd loved. I was married for 10 years to Corbin, 42M, a high school biology teacher who looked great on paper. He wasn't flashy or super romantic, but he was reliable. At least, I thought he was. We met through mutual friends in Phoenix, and he had this very calm energy that made me feel safe. I'd always been more emotional, sensitive, I guess. So his even-keeled nature felt like balance. We tried for kids on and off over the years. I had a few minor fertility issues, nothing drastic, but it took longer than we expected. When I finally got pregnant in 2022, we were both excited. Well, I was. He was supportive, but I don't know. He wasn't in it the way I was. He didn't talk to the baby or read parenting books. I chalked it up to nerves, or maybe that he'd open up more once the baby arrived. I didn't expect to lose everything in a single week. In February 2023, I was 6 months pregnant. I remember it like a nightmare I keep waking up inside of. I started having cramps one morning, nothing severe at first, just an ache that felt like I'd slept wrong. By early afternoon, I noticed spotting. I called my OB's office and they told me to come in, just to be safe. I drove myself, which feels stupid in retrospect. I don't even remember walking through the clinic doors. Just the sterile white light above me and a nurse saying deep breaths. I passed out before I got to the OR. Placental abruption. My son, Miles, we had already chosen his name, was gone before they even got me into surgery. I woke up in the ICU with tubes in both arms and my mouth dry as chalk. There were flowers by the window, a card with a barely legible, "Thinking of you" note. Corbin was standing near the door. Not sitting beside me, not holding my hand. Just standing. He didn't even say my name. Just, "You're awake." I remember blinking up at him, waiting for something, anything more. Where is he?" I asked. My voice cracked like it hadn't been used in a century. He looked down, then back at me. He didn't make it. That was it. No, I'm so sorry, no comforting words. Just those 3 detached words. I cried silently for hours. Not loud sobs. Just tears sliding sideways across the pillow while he sat in the chair by the window scrolling through his phone. I stayed in the hospital for 6 days. On day 3, Corbin's mom showed up. Lorraine. I'd always had a strained relationship with her. She was military for over 2 decades and treated emotion like it was a personal weakness. I tried hard to please her, but she never seemed impressed by my art or my work-from-home lifestyle. She came in like she was checking on a soldier, not her daughter-in-law who had just lost her child. "Doctor says you'll recover physically," she said, barely glancing at me. "That's good." No hug. No, I'm sorry. Just a brisk, clinical assessment. I nodded, because what else could I do? When I finally got home, I was still fragile. I was barely sleeping. Couldn't eat. Couldn't even go into the nursery. We had painted it pale green and had a tiny mobile of birds I made from felt and wood. I wasn't ready to face it. But I was definitely not ready to face what they'd done. My craft room, my studio, my sanctuary, was empty. Everything. Gone. Every sculpture, every clay pendant, every piece of art I'd made over the last 4 years, missing. The shelving was stripped. The walls were bare. Even my old sketchbooks were gone. I froze. I walked to the garage and found Corbin putting an old lawn chair into the back of his truck. "Where's my stuff?" I asked. He didn't even flinch. "Mom and I cleaned it out." "You what?" "We thought it would help. You know, to move on. You don't need all that stuff around reminding you of everything." "You sold it?" "There was a community garage sale. We donated most of it. Some lady from Phoenix bought a bunch of the ceramic stuff." I couldn't speak. My throat was dry again, same as in the hospital. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "You had no right," I finally whispered. He shrugged. "They were just decorations." "No," I said. "They were pieces of me." And that's when I realized he never got me. Not once in 10 years did he understand who I was or what mattered to me. I didn't leave right away. I wish I had. But when you're that broken, you cling to anything familiar, even if it's the thing cutting you apart. I tried therapy. I tried couples counseling. He refused to go. Said we didn't need it. Said grief just needed time. Meanwhile, he stayed out late. A lot. Told me he was helping students with science fair projects. Left his phone face down at dinner. Started wearing cologne again. One night, I picked up his phone when it buzzed and saw a message from a contact saved as just R. I wish she'd finally just leave so we can be together. It didn't even hurt. That's the worst part. It just felt inevitable. The next day, I packed my things and left. Moved in with my older sister in Sedona. Filed for divorce 3 weeks later. He didn't fight it. Lorraine emailed me once. You've always been overly dramatic. Corbin deserves someone more emotionally stable. It's been 2 years. I rebuilt my studio in a little rental above a coffee shop in Flagstaff. Took some pottery classes. Opened a new Etsy shop under a different name. I started making again, not because I was healed, but because it was the only thing that helped me heal. Then 3 months ago, I got an email from a woman named Claire Donnelly. She runs part of a national arts organization that curates exhibits for handcrafted art from all over the U.S. She said she saw one of my pieces on Instagram and asked if I'd like to be part of a show traveling through Denver, Chicago, and Portland. I said yes. I flew out to the Denver show in March just to see my name on a wall again, to feel like I had a place in the world again. And that's when I saw it. Hanging in a side exhibit marked Unknown Artist was one of my pieces. A lavender and gold wind chime with embedded spirals and a chipped piece of blue topaz in the center. My mom's ring. I broke it accidentally while sculpting and embedded the piece into a ceramic disc so I could always keep it close. I stepped closer. It was unmistakable. My hands were shaking. I took a photo. Sent it to my sister. She texted back, "Is that from before the miscarriage?" I nodded. Claire walked by and I stopped her. "Hey, that piece, do you know where it came from?" She checked her clipboard. "That one came in a batch from one of our field scouts. Picked it up in Flagstaff a couple years ago. It was in a donation box." I thanked her and walked away before I burst into tears. I haven't told Corbin yet. I don't know if I will. But I know this. They tried to erase me. Erase my grief, my art, my voice. But one of my lost pieces made its way into a national show. It was meant to be seen. I stood there staring at the chime for what felt like forever. People walked past me, chatting, sipping wine from plastic cups, admiring the other pieces. But all I could hear was the dull roar of my heartbeat in my ears. I don't know what it was, maybe the lighting, maybe the surrealness of it all, but in that moment, I didn't feel proud or validated. I felt violated. Like someone had broken into my memory and hung it up for strangers to admire, without any of the pain that came with it. Without the story. Without me. I couldn't stop thinking about how it ended up there. How it got from my shelves, from my hands, to this gallery wall. I knew the answer, of course. Corbin. Lorraine. The garage sale. But now, I had proof. Physical evidence of what they tossed aside in the name of helping me move on. That night, back at the hotel, I barely slept. I just sat on the bed with the brochure in my hands, flipping back to page 12, where the wind chime was pictured. It was listed as untitled, artist unknown. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part of me wanted to laugh. I opened my laptop and started searching. Found Claire's email again, reread it 5 times, then hovered my fingers over the keyboard. I didn't know what I was about to do, but I knew I had to do something. I typed, "Hi Claire, I wanted to follow up about a piece I saw at the exhibit, the lavender and gold wind chime listed as artist unknown. I'm the artist. It was made in late 2021 in Flagstaff. It went missing during a difficult time in my life, and I just want to understand how it ended up in your collection. Can we talk?" She replied within the hour. "Hi Mallory, thank you for reaching out. I'm so sorry to hear that piece was taken from you. We sourced it from a donation box collected at a large garage sale in Flagstaff in 2023. We'd love to properly credit you as the artist if you can confirm its origin. Let's talk when you're available." I sat with that email open on my screen for at least 10 minutes. It felt surreal, being asked to prove I'd made something that had come from my own hands. So I went digging. Found an old photo I'd taken in my studio in 2021. The chime was hanging behind me, blurry in the background, but visible. I sent it to her. Then I told her about the ring fragment. I still had a photo of the original ring, chipped on one side, and another close-up from when I first embedded it into the piece. It was subtle, but distinct. She replied the next morning. "That's more than enough. We'll make sure your name is added. I'm also going to pull the provenance notes to confirm how it came into our possession. I hope this brings you some peace." Peace. That's a funny word. I didn't feel peace. I felt the opposite of peace. Because it wasn't just that he got rid of my things without asking. It was that he never thought I'd know. Never thought I'd matter enough for any of it to be noticed again. And now? Now, one of the very pieces he sold off like a broken toaster had made it into a national art exhibit. I couldn't stop picturing the smug look Lorraine must have had when she boxed everything up, deciding I didn't need reminders. As if my grief was a mess they needed to clean up. As if they were the ones hurting. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not just about the chime, but about everything. The silence in the hospital. The flowers he didn't bring. The way he let his mother run my life while I was hooked up to machines. The way he just shrugged when I asked where my art went. And then, the messages from R. Renee. God, I hadn't even thought about her in a year. The next day, I called in a favor. My friend Erin still worked at the school where Corbin taught. We weren't close, but she'd always liked me and had once bought a sculpture for her office. She picked up on the second ring. Mallory, she said, a little surprised. Hey, wow, it's been forever. Yeah, I said, trying to sound normal. Sorry to bother you, I was wondering. Is Renee still teaching there? There was a pause. Yeah, she is. Actually, well, she and Corbin got married last fall. I froze. They what? You didn't know? No. We haven't spoken since the divorce finalized. I'm sorry. I thought. I mean, it was a small thing. Courthouse. Just them, I think. Not a lot of people were invited. I laughed. It came out hollow. Well, that tracks. Erin was quiet for a moment. Then, gently, he's not the same anymore, Mallory. I don't mean that as a defense. Just, he seems bitter. Harder than he used to be. I always thought he regretted how things ended with you. I didn't reply. What could I say? That regret means nothing when the damage is done? 2 days later, I found myself back in Flagstaff, standing outside the house that used to be mine. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe that I'd walk up, knock, and, what? Scream at him? Demand an apology? Rub the exhibit catalog in his face? But I didn't knock. I just sat in my car, across the street, watching the curtains move inside the living room. There was a bird feeder hanging on the porch now. New pavers lining the walkway. A ceramic planter shaped like a beehive sitting by the steps. One of my designs. I leaned closer. It was mine. An original from 2020. I had signed it on the bottom in a pressed imprint. They hadn't sold everything. They kept some of it. The thought made my stomach twist. So, they got rid of the pieces that felt too emotional, too reminding, but kept the pretty ones. The ones that matched their porch furniture. I drove away without knocking. But something inside me had shifted. I didn't go straight home after that. I ended up at a little diner Corbin and I used to go to on Sundays. Janie's Kitchen, over on Butler Avenue. Not fancy, mostly locals, older folks, construction guys getting breakfast at 2 p.m. The kind of place that puts too much whipped cream on everything and still uses laminated menus. I ordered a coffee and just sat there, staring out the window at the drizzle. It doesn't rain much in Flagstaff, but when it does, it smells like the earth is trying to remember something. A waitress I didn't recognize came over. You okay, hon? She asked as she poured the coffee. I must have looked like HLL. Yeah, I said, not really meaning it. Just visiting old ghosts, I guess. She smiled, a little sadly, like she knew exactly what I meant. Maybe she did. I called my sister from the parking lot after I left. You didn't go in, did you? She asked. No, I said. But I saw one of my planters on the porch. There was a pause on the other end. You sure? It had the pressed signature. You want me to drive up? I hesitated. No, not yet. She let out a breath. You sound like you're not sure if you're mad or sad. That's because I'm both, I said. And confused. And tired. And honestly, I don't even know what I want from him. You want justice, she said gently. Or acknowledgement. Or some damn accountability. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Maybe all three, I whispered. The next day, I got a text from Claire. Hey Mallory, just wanted to update you. We've updated the exhibit credits. Your name is officially listed on the wind chime, and I included your bio in the online catalog. People loved your work in Denver. A couple folks even asked if any of your pieces are for sale. For a second, I forgot to breathe. I'd spent so long thinking of that art as lost, as buried pieces of a life I didn't get to keep. But now, people were looking at it, asking about it, wanting it. I sent her a thank you and then opened my Etsy shop for the first time in months. I hadn't listed anything new since last October. I hadn't had the nerve. But I started photographing some of my newer pieces that night. A series I called Held Still, mostly abstract ceramic hands cupped around tiny shapes, eggs, feathers, stones. Things that looked fragile. Things that looked like they could break but hadn't. It felt good. Like something inside me was loosening. But then, I got another message. This one wasn't from Claire. It was from a woman named Darcy. The name didn't ring a bell, but the email address ended in the same domain as the school where Corbin taught. The subject line made my stomach drop. Art show question? Possible misunderstanding? I clicked it open. Hi Mallory, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I attended the Americana Soul show in Denver and recognized one of the pieces in the unknown artist section. I bought a very similar wind chime at a garage sale in Flagstaff in 2023 and gave it to a friend who now works for the show as a scout. I had no idea it had been sold without permission. I'm so sorry. I can return it to you if you'd like. Just let me know what feels right. Warmly, Darcy. I read it 3 times before responding. Hi Darcy, thank you so much for reaching out. That piece means more to me than I can explain, and it was incredibly painful to lose it the way I did. I'm not asking for it back, you've done nothing wrong. But knowing where it came from, how it traveled, that does help me understand. Thank you for your kindness. Seriously. She wrote back right away. You deserve to be recognized for your work. I hope this brings some closure. Closure. There was that word again. Everyone keeps using it like it's a door you just close and walk away from. But what if the door never fully shuts? What if someone keeps reaching through it, taking pieces of you, pretending like they were never yours? I was still sitting with that when my phone rang. Blocked number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? Mallory? His voice. Corbin. My entire body tensed like a muscle being pulled too tight. Hi, I said cautiously. I heard. I saw your name on something. He cleared his throat. Someone from the district shared an article about the exhibit. I didn't say anything. You're doing well, he said. Like it was a question. I'm doing something, I replied. Not sure what it is yet, but yeah. Another pause. I didn't know it meant that much to you. The art. There it was. 10 years, and that's what he came up with. I told you every single day what it meant to me, I said, my voice low but sharp. I built a life around it. It was my therapy. My voice when I couldn't speak. I thought I was helping, he said weakly. Back then. I thought if I got rid of the reminders, you were helping yourself, Corbin. You were uncomfortable, so you erased the parts of me that made you feel something. That's not fair. No, I snapped. What's not fair is waking up in the ICU without my child, then coming home to find out my entire identity had been boxed up and sold for pocket change. You didn't even ask me. You didn't even look at me. He was quiet. Probably because he knew I was right. I'm sorry, he said after a long moment. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to help you. You didn't try. And he didn't. He asked if I wanted to meet. Talk. Just to clear the air. I said I'd think about it. But part of me already knew the answer. I didn't need him to clear the air. I just needed to finish clearing out the pieces of him that were still floating around in my memory, polluting the parts of me that were healing. I didn't reply to Corbin's request to meet. I left his last message on read. Maybe that sounds petty, but after everything, I didn't owe him a damn thing, not a conversation, not closure, not a single second of my time. He hadn't just discarded my art. He'd discarded me. And that didn't get fixed over coffee. Instead, I focused on something else, something that, in a way, was bigger than him. Bigger than Lorraine. Bigger than the years I'd lost trying to mold myself into someone they'd never truly care for. I focused on me. Claire called again a few days later. We've had a ton of inquiries, she said excitedly. Collectors, museum reps, even a feature request from Southwest Artisan Quarterly. I sat down slowly, not trusting my knees. What? You're getting attention, Mallory. Real attention. We'd love to offer you a solo corner at the Portland leg of the exhibit. And I wanted to ask if you'd consider doing a small Q&A session or even a panel. Wow. Yes, absolutely. She laughed. I hoped you'd say that. For weeks, I worked like a woman possessed. But not in a desperate way, in a liberated way. Like something had cracked open in me and was finally letting the light pour in. I created a whole new series for the Portland show. I titled it Recovered. Every piece was inspired by something I thought I'd lost forever. My identity, my voice, my child, my future. One sculpture in particular stood out. It was a ceramic bust, abstracted and hollow, with pieces cracked off and re-glued, the fissures filled with gold leaf. A nod to the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with precious metals. I named it the parts they tried to throw away. And now, here comes the good part. The revenge. But not with fists or screaming or courtroom drama. No, this was the long game. The silent one. The kind you feel in your bones. At the Portland exhibit, the buzz was stronger than I expected. People weren't just showing up, they were lining up. Press passes, curators, podcasters, art bloggers, even a guy from the local PBS station. During the Q&A, someone asked what inspired the parts they tried to throw away. I took a deep breath, and for the first time publicly, I told my story. I didn't use names, but I didn't hold back. I made this after waking up from a medical trauma to find that everything I'd created, the things that got me through the hardest years of my life, had been sold off without my consent. My work, my voice, my history, treated like clutter during spring cleaning. I was told I wouldn't want reminders. But what they didn't realize is that the reminders are what brought me back to life. There was silence. Then applause. Real, loud, bone-rattling applause. The next morning, my inbox exploded. Not just with fan mail, but with opportunities. One was from the Arizona Museum of Modern Craft in Tempe. They wanted to do a regional artist spotlight. The curator mentioned seeing my exhibit and said something that made me stop breathing for a second. "Your story has power, Mallory. And your art, it's reclaiming something that a lot of women don't even realize they've lost." That same day, I got an email from someone else, Renee. Yep, that Renee. The one he cheated on me with. The one he married after pretending I never existed. Her message was surprisingly civil. "Hi Mallory, I saw your name in the Artisan Quarterly piece and just wanted to say congratulations. Your work is beautiful." I didn't know the full story. "I'm sorry for the role I played in any of it. Wishing you the best." Renee, I didn't reply. She knew. Now they both knew. The woman he tried to erase? She was now hanging in galleries, speaking on panels, selling pieces to collectors, getting invited to museum installations. And they were stuck in that same small house in Flagstaff with their porch planters made by the woman he discarded. He could keep them. They were free samples of what he could have had forever. But the real revenge? That came a week later. Claire forwarded me a licensing request. A production company based in Santa Fe wanted to option my story and work for a documentary on Southwestern artists overcoming loss and rebuilding through creation. They wanted to feature me. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. And when I asked Claire who else they were considering for the segment, she replied, "No one. You're the one they want." I haven't spoken to Corbin again. I never responded to his last message. I don't follow him on anything. I don't even Google his name. But if he ever steps into an airport, a museum, a bookstore, or flips on PBS late one night, there's a chance he'll see my face. Or hear my name. Or see the parts they tried to throw away on screen and feel something twist in his gut. That's enough. That's better than yelling. Better than vengeance. That's healing. That's art.